We're going to move along to our next section. So I'm excited to have three of our regional team members share some promising practices that they've been implementing in their regions in order to collect opt-ins. And so the first person who's going to share with us today on the next slide is Jermaine from Dallas-Fort Worth. And I will pass it off to you to take it away.
Thanks, Phoebe. Hello, everybody. It's so good to see y'all's faces. Well, I can kind of see your face. I'm looking at the screen. I'm happy to be here. My name is Jermaine Turner. For those of you that don't know, I'm the COP lead for Nudge here in Dallas. And I'm excited to just share some winning practices that I've seen that have generated some success for our students here. And so I've been like learning about KIPP and the benefits of what KIPP is. I'm just going to voice over a couple of things that I've seen be successful. And I'm happy to just answer any questions that you all may have as we get to the discussion piece. So for those that don't know, in Dallas, we have our first founding high school, KIPP Academy. So I'll also name that our school is smaller than other regions. But I think that these practices can just be best generated, whether it's at a larger campus, hopefully for KIMSA regions, or at a smaller campus as well. So the first thing that I do is like whenever those reports are shared that Phoebe sends, I'm on those like all the time to see what are some new updates so that I can reference those and go over that data with my seminar teachers as well. So I craft out time during my one-on-one with my seminar teachers to discuss the importance of KIPP and what it is, to ask for their feedback, to get their investment as well. Since they're the leaders in their classroom and they're going to be the ones pushing this through. So I'll use the reports by class to see like which students in our regions have not signed up, which ones have. And then I'll just work with my seminar teachers to make a plan of attack. Now, mind you, this is after we already did, the first thing that we did was the seminar focus group lesson. Since Shannon and I lead our seminar focus group in our respective regions, what we did was help create, and with Robert, create a lesson plan to introduce KIPP to students in the seminar classes. And that actually went over really well. So what we did was whenever we got those links and such, we had students, a lot of my students have been using the QR codes because they're excited to use their phone in class, which is all right. So they'll use their phone to just scan the QR code on the PowerPoint, and they've opted in that way. And while that's been happening, our senior seminar teacher, we made a progress monitoring tool that's on a tracker that she already has to just kind of check off as they go to show that they did complete it, so that we would leave the day in each class period knowing, okay, everybody in second period was able to get to it, or we're missing 5 students. So then I'm able to go back to this report to just like compare and contrast the data, if that makes sense. So the next thing that we do, one-on-ones with students have been really helpful too. So for our students that have opted in or that were hesitant to opt in or didn't get to, I'll have my seminar teacher, or I'll go around and ask them like, hey, Johnny, do you have any questions about KIPP? I noticed that you didn't get a chance to opt in, because sometimes they, just have their own reservations about the tool, or they just want to know more. They want to know like what sample messages, this, that, and the other. So then if they were, and I found that those students that didn't opt in were typically absent the day we did the lesson. So I'll usually just like voice over some important pieces that happened during the lesson so that they can see like sample messages and student feedback and all of that. And make it a point to where they can opt in either with me there or at a later time. But I'll have the QR code ready. That QR code is like on my clipboard. I'm like, since you asked, I just like have the QR code ready for them to opt in. I also email the parents during parent meetings so I'll mass email our parents, and then during parent meetings when we have everybody there, again, that QR code is readily available. And I've made phone calls to parents too. Like I've started this like hashtag questions that need answers campaign, pseudo campaign, where I'll just call parents or have my seminar teacher call them to give updates about their student. And I'll just ask them, do you have any questions about your child's plans after high school? Like, have they talked to you about that? And usually they're like, actually, I do. So then I'm like, did you know about KIPP? So I'll introduce it that way, kind of like slide it in there. So if they have questions, I'm like, so glad you asked. We have this amazing free tool that's available just for KIPP students where they can get their questions answered, and so can you. It's something that I'm thinking about doing this upcoming meeting because our parent opt-in numbers are low, but I think that's the vibe that I'm going to use for parent opt-ins. So anyway, parent meetings have been successful as well. We have our nudge posters around our school. So anytime they're walking around, and I try my best if I'm near the poster to just like point or something at the poster. I'm even probably going to take a picture of myself pointing at the poster and see if my seminar teacher can just like put it in the slide deck, just as a friendly reminder. We made it a requirement, and it's for our juniors, mind you. We're seniors and juniors. Specifically for our class of 2023 rising seniors, our class of 2022 graduating seniors, make it a requirement as part of their transition meetings when they leave. So we go over all of the data, we compare their awards, together, we answer questions from parents. We bring up KIPP as an option that's required for them to complete in that meeting. And then we can answer, especially if the students have yet to sign up. So the conversation will go, do you have any questions about KIPP? Here's all the things. Or I'm so glad that you signed up for KIPP. Do you have any questions? Have you been able to use the tool? So with it being a requirement, as part of their transition meeting that every senior has to have, it's a great way to just like slide that in there. And we make it a grade, a part of the do now activity, anything that we can do. Capstone requirement for our juniors if they have not yet done so. But lastly, typically the QR code, getting feedback from students, making it for a grade and a part of other best practices have been helpful. And the last thing I'll mention, since y'all know I love to talk, is if I need more support, I'll ask corresponding teachers of like, hey, Johnny's in your second period and we're trying to get all of second period signed up for this amazing tool. You have a great relationship with him. Can you talk to him about this? Like, let me know how I can support, or can I come into your class real quick to double check if all seniors have done X, Y, Z? So those have been just like a summary of the practices that I've used to be able to get the opt-ins. But I'll name that the first rendition of it was after the seminar lesson, because we had feedback from students in the video, from graduating seniors, talking about the benefit of KIPP, right? And how they like the tool and how they wish they would have used it sooner. And that typically gets students, that integrate, will get students invested. We're still working on the parent opt-ins, but I think I'm going to do what I just mentioned, the calling parents and asking them about if they know about the tool, or including it in our transition meetings. That's it. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing, Jermaine. So many awesome strategies. Someone said JT is killing it. Very true. Does anyone have any questions for Jermaine before we move on? We do have some extra few minutes in case anyone wants to ask something.
Do you have a percentage that you'd like to see for your parents for opt-ins?
That's a great question. I'm trying to make a realistic but audacious goal, because parental communication, I think in some regions are just more difficult. Here in our region, it varies. It really varies. So honestly, for me, if I can get 50% of my parents to opt in by the end of the school year, I would feel like that's a success. And I'm debating if I want 50% in 2022 and 50% in 2023. Right now, I think the 50% is going to be for my graduating seniors, since we're already having required decision meetings with them. That's my audacious goal. If I had to take a step back, I would say 35%, right? So I've already had some transition meetings with some parents and some students, and those meetings can be long, and sometimes KIPP isn't like the top of mind, but my plan is to follow up with those parents, because usually our meetings are kind of like split into two. It will be like a second part of, did you do those action items? And that's when I was going to bring it in. But if I can get 35 to 50%, I would feel like, okay, because I know parents have questions, and I want to make sure they understand that this is a tool that they can use comfortably to ask questions and to get insight and feedback on. They just might need more information about the benefit of the tool. But then I'm thinking 35 to 50%.
Do you have any tips that you could share for including school leaders or principals in the process of driving opt-in collection for parents specifically?
Yeah, I would say one tip is, so the first thing would be to make sure that, and then every school leader is also different. I'll name that these successes have been, with the benefit of having my school leader be aware of and in support of, KIPP and the process that it can be. But the biggest thing is I include it in, so I meet, I have my O3s with my school leader weekly, and I include updates about Nudge. And I basically need to demonstrate the wow factor. Like, if our goal is to have our students leaving here college and career ready, and we have a percentage for that goal, this is a tool that needs to be implemented and utilized, and seeing how we can incorporate this in our communication that's already being sent out. And I typically send out the parent communication. So getting buy-in on that and getting support in that way. And making sure that it's something that we can record or have, recording of whenever we meet with our families in person or virtually. But the biggest thing is, and then following up on parents that have not, right? Like, I don't know if we need like a squad to do so, to just make those good phone calls home to double check and see, to let them know about the incentives. But the biggest thing is my school leader aware of the benefit? Are they on board? And what capacity do I have to be able to share curated messages to families in English and in Spanish about the benefit of the tool, right? And how this can be something that they, in my mind, are involved in before. For me, for class 2022, it's like, well, seniors already have a checklist. Can we make it to where parents have to sign off on the checklist? The KIPP is one of those things that they know about, at least, or opted into themselves as well. And if they have not, then having a conversation with me or somebody on the KIPP Forward team can be part of that. Because a lot of times we think about the senior sign out as only student facing, but this is probably also a good space to have KIPPer introduced on the parent side as well, because the parents have to sign off on the senior sign out. So investment and buy-in, as well as just like the benefit, or the biggest pieces, and then strategizing what you own and what you need support with.
Awesome. Thanks, Jermaine. That was so helpful. Next, I'm going to pass it off to Marissa, who's joining us from KIPP Colorado, to share some more strategies that they've been using in Colorado.
Yes, hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Marissa Manzanares, and as Phoebe mentioned, I'm from KIPP Colorado. I am one of the persistence advisors, so mostly working with alumni specifically, but really we've been going hard with this nudge programming. So here are a couple of things that have really been working for us. We have been creating do nows or exit tickets in senior seminar classes, really utilizing the KIPP Foundation marketing tools. Those tools have been so helpful, just because when we're, thinking of how can we, get the word out there, creating these different things is also like another task at hand. So having these already created has been super helpful. The one pager specifically, we've been posting them all around the high schools, and then in particular with like my alumni, sharing it on my social media pages, my Facebook, our Instagrams, and then just sending, mass emails as well. Including the opt-in link and QR code, and then the social media graphics. I really enjoyed using the TikToks that were made. I got a lot of feedback and a lot of integration from students, just telling how exciting it was. And so that has been something that's been really helpful. Another thing I wanted to bring up is our region has created a strong transition website. And Phoebe, I don't know if am I able to share my screen?
You are, if you would like to, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to share briefly. We have created a website. Let me pull this up really quickly. Okay. Do you all see my screen? Perfect. So yeah, we have created our own KIPP Forward website, which hosts everything that you need to know, including like our college and career advisors, contact information. So we really wanted to streamline everything, including KIPPer, and how to do so. So how we've been telling students also to access the KIPPer is just to go to our website. Here are a couple of ways to, opt in, text the sign up, or complete the survey, which is linked in right here. And you can also see that we have included our pre-enrollment survey as well. So students can just click on one and then move on to the next one, because students have been kind of confused on, what surveys, what's the KIPPer, what's the pre-enrollment. So we just wanted to kind of have that in one spot. Yeah, if you don't mind sharing your screen again. Perfect. So that's been really helpful, just really utilizing and streamlining it all in one place. We also created an activity in senior seminar class, and it also will be a requirement for our senior exit interviews. So making sure with every touch point, our college match counselors are having that conversation of, oh, have you heard about KIPPer? Do you not know what it is? Well, here is how it can benefit you. And then we walk them through the process of signing up and opting in. We also made it a requirement for our senior day. We were able to host both of our KIPP high schools, our seniors at Dave & Buster's. And that was actually a requirement for them to attend Dave & Buster's, was to complete the nudge program, to opt in. And we really utilized the ADB sheets that Phoebe has been sending out to help track it all. So we're just kind of like really just kind of being intrusive and taking the intrusive advising route and being like, hey, have you done this? If not, okay, cool, let's sit down and do it right now. Also, our match counselors push into advisory for students to literally just scan the QR code and complete. We'll sit there and we won't watch over the students make sure that they complete it, but we'll have them check in with us before they leave the classroom to make sure that they completed it, both sections. And then, yeah, reaching out to students who have not signed up. That ADB tracker has been really helpful, especially because a lot of our students, we had about 89 students that texted the hashtag sign up, but didn't complete the survey. And so once that was notified of us, we really utilized that list of students to make sure that they did complete that second survey. And then we also have our own class of 2022 tracker. So both high schools, they not only track like their FAFSA completion and all of that good stuff, but we also have a section on our tracker, has a student opted in to nudge. So just making sure that we're constantly looking at that list and updating it as much as possible once we're in communication with those students. And then in particular for our class of 2021, our alumni, we just make sure that it's a touch point during our first semester benchmarks. It was one of the questions that we went through, making sure that they knew what KIPP was and making sure that they were logged in, making sure that they opted in correctly. And it was a pretty good turnout for our alumni anyway. Just those one-on-one meetings was a huge benefit for our region. Any questions? Perfect, thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing, Marissa. I know you said intrusive advising, but sometimes we need to be intrusive in order to get something done and to follow up. Next, we have Shannon from KIPP Philadelphia sharing some of Philly's best practices with us.
Yes. Hey, everyone. It's great to see you all. And thank you, Jermaine and Marissa, for all the ideas that you shared. I really like those and definitely have some ideas to incorporate into our own region. I'm going to share some things that we have coming up or that we have done so far that have supported with opt-ins and try not to be too repetitive. But one of the big upcoming events that we have and that we've done before is really collaborating with the high school in regards to report card meetings. So these are called ILPs, individual learning plans in our region, which sounds really similar to IEPs. But during our ILP report card meetings, we are going to make sure that this is a continued agenda item that is visible for advisors, that they are communicating to students and to parents and guardians via the chat usually or via their Zoom. We are not yet back to a place where we're having every single family come into our building. So it's great because it does help on Zoom when you can just drop the link and say, okay, I'll give you, 2 minutes to complete the opt-in right now. And reminding them that, it's the student and the parent or guardian that should be completing it. One of the biggest tools that we use to inform who needs to complete this is that we have shared data trackers with our classes of 2022, 2023, and we're starting 2024, so that advisors on the high school side can see which students have already opted in, so they know whether they can skip the step or if it needs to be an agenda item in their meeting. So I'm hoping to see, we have our next round of report card meetings starting next Friday. So I hope to see after next Friday that we'll notice an increase in our opt-ins, both with students and especially with parents, since as we've all kind of said, that's kind of on the lower end for us. So hopefully after those parent and guardian meetings, we'll see an increase there. We're also, speaking of parents, making sure that we mention this in combination with telling families, hey, as a reminder, you want to make sure that you're filling out your taxes so that we can prepare for FAFSA next year. And then tagging this in and saying, hey, in order to make sure that you get all of the updates and reminders around financial aid, you can opt into KIPP. Since we've noticed that anything related to money, scholarships, financial aid, that seems to make parents' ears perk up and say, oh, that's really important. Like, I need to make sure I'm in the loop about this. So we try to tag it into any of those conversations. And for our juniors, we know that we're in the process of finalizing our capstone projects for juniors this year. So KIPP is going to be a component of that. So students will have to opt in, or if they are for some reason strongly against it, at least say why, so that we can make sure that they're opting in and it's just like a component of their class. For our seniors, we are in a good space because our graduation requirement is the capstone project from our senior seminar class. So opting into KIPP is literally a part of their class, but also required for graduation, again, unless they have rationale for really why they aren't going to. So that's something that both of our junior and senior seminar teachers are constantly tracking and checking off, especially related to grading. So I think that will really help us, hopefully by the end of, I'll say mid-May, we really want to have as many students opted in as possible. In regards just to kind of like what are we using, similar to what else has been shared, we really are utilizing the QR code, website URL, and text to opt in. For the seniors, it is a component of their transition checklist, as been shared by Marissa. We don't have a transition website, so I love that, and I'm definitely going to do that next year. And it's an agenda item for the decision meeting. So again, I think it's just making sure that it's apparent in all places on every agenda all the time. And also making sure that other like staff members are on board and stakeholders are on board. I saw that in the chat when someone was asking about getting school leaders on board. Right now, I think we're in a place where our school leaders know what KIPP is, they understand the importance, but we want them to take that extra step in continuing to have it as a constant part of their communication. So one of the ideas I have is just having our school leader or our assistant principals, anytime they're posting on Parent Square, which is our communication platform, just tagging it like, PS, have you opted in yet? I think the more parents see it consistently, the more that they'll say, oh, this is something that's just really important if my student goes to this school. So that'll help us hopefully increase the parent and guardian opt-ins. I'll pause there. Does anyone have any questions about these areas specifically, or really any areas as well? I am working with Jermaine as this other COP. So if there's something that we haven't talked about that you just want to ask, we're definitely happy to answer that too. Marissa, I think there might be a question for you in the chat about the platform you use for the transition website.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually use Google Sites. It was super easy, super helpful, and like super user friendly. That is what we ended up utilizing, and it's awesome because you can add different pages, different links to different websites as well. It's super helpful. So let me know if you have any questions of like how to use it moving forward once you kind of like look into yourself.
Awesome, thanks. And just one more thing I'll share before I pass it back is this has just recently become popular in our region, but specifically with our class of 2023, there's a student leadership group of students who run an 11th grade Instagram. So it's all student run. And what they do is they basically, any email they get related to anything for school, anything that's upcoming, they've turned it into this like resume builder opportunity for themselves. They all have a role like CEO, communication specialist, and then they post all of the things that we're talking about that they need to do. So recently, the people who run this student leadership Instagram have been posting about KIPP. So I'm going to just continue to try to push from like the student angle too, because students seem to be reading their messages more than they're reading our messages, which I understand. So I think if you have anything in your region where students are communicating with other students, if you can push it in that space too, that will be really helpful.